Why full stack, right? And very interesting point, Pranbir, that you can mention over here. Interesting as well as I think it's very informative point that why full stack is required, right? Why full stack is required from this particular slide. Uh, from this particular slide. So there are two slides which talks about, in terms of maybe components of full stack also, uh, and also the importance that these pictures can show to students that why full stack is so important. Over to you, Pran.
Thanks. We can see one picture of burger here. So we can consider this burger as a web application or any kind of enterprise software. Okay. So we can see that there are lots of technologies written in different places, but what it means actually. So the things are not so much complicated. Okay. So at the very base of this burger, we can see that the bread part of the bottom bread actually, where all these stacks of burgers. Okay, so there you can see it is written like AWS, Azure, Google, iOS, IBM, Android, Windows, Linux. So basically this is the cloud part, or a virtual machine in the cloud that has internet access, basically where we are going to host our application. Okay. And on the top of that, we have another stack here we can see where it is written like PHP, Python, Ruby, Java, C Sharp, .NET, Perl, and blah, blah, blah. So these are basically the backend language. So what it means is, so our enterprise software will run on a cloud or in a computer, and which language I'm going to use to program the backend part. And that's why we use this kind of these technologies like PHP, Python, MongoDB. So MongoDB is basically a database part. I don't know why it was written here. It should be in that yellow part actually. Okay. So in that yellow part, it is written PostgreSQL DB to MySQL. So MySQL, this term almost everyone knows. So it is basically the database. So we have the cloud. In the cloud, we have this different backend language. So what is the purpose of this backend language? So it simply connect with the database. Okay, because almost all the application need a backend or a database actually, where it kind of store the data, it kind of fetch the data, perform calculation and everything. So here comes this yellow part. So it is basically the database. Now, so we will look into this front end part later, but before that we have this REST, SOAP, API, WebSocket. So what is this? So these are some kind of, we can say like some connectors. Okay, what it do is, so we are using a backend technologies. So what it will, I mean, how it gonna help us? So basically it will get some request from the front end that, hey, I need this kind of data. So the backend task is to get the data from the database, okay, and give it to return. Now, how the front end will talk to the database, like I'm sorry, talk to the backend, like how it will ask, like, hey, I need this data. That is basically the API. Okay, so front end basically what we see in our browser, okay, or mobile application or anything we can say. So here we can see the lots of technologies written here. This Ajax, AngularJS, PhoneGap, blah blah blah, Bootstrap, CSS3, HTML, jQuery, JSON, React.js, and PWSPA. Okay, so this is basically the front end, like what we saw in our browser. And so what happened is, so browser is definitely all the pictures, buttons, and everything, whatever you are seeing, and this will simply call this API part, which is basically the green layer here, and using that it will communicate. It will connect with the backend. Backend basically this brown color stack, and its responsibility is to collect the data from the database or update something or do some any kind of operation, and it will simply connect with the that yellow stack, which is basically the database, and everything is simply running on different environment, different cloud, which is basically the base, which is AWS, Azure, and all those things. There is one another beautiful diagram. I think we can say like why full stack here. We can explain it easily. From the right, I mean the picture we have in the right side, we can see. So we have three developer. Okay, so one is like he know PHP very well. Second one is like he knows C sharp very well, and the third one is like someone who know CSS very well. Okay, but on the left side there is one guy who know everything. Okay, like how PHP is working, how to do the UI design. He has knowledge of Python. He know C sharp as well as he's a good QA. He's a good quality assurance engineer, and he has the knowledge of CSS as well. That means he knows almost everything. And if you took the left side picture, so there is something more written. Like, see, full stack is developer. There are lots of responsibility that full stack developer take. Okay, so first of all, he see the word is telling that full stack. Okay, so he should have the knowledge of all the stack. Okay, so for example, in front end, so there are some tools or technologies mentioned. That means you should have knowledge of those tools and technologies. Then there are some dev tools, which is basically more of developer friendly. We can see that there it is written Git, SAS, Gulp. Okay. Then he should know that SEO analytics. It is slightly less actually. It's not so much knowledge we need in SEO, but we should know like some very basic concept. Okay. Then we have this DevOps concept. So it's better that a full stack developer should have some DevOps knowledge also. So DevOps is like how I am going to deploy those into the cloud. Then he should have this backend knowledge. So we already saw that in our burger. Then he should have some basic knowledge of database also, how database is working, different kind of concepts of database. Then he should have some basic design concepts also, because at least he also had to work on the front end. And at the end he should have this agile knowledge. Agile is like how to develop the steps that industry follow. Okay, it is not like a college project where we like okay, so I want to do this kind of project, okay, I just start coding. It is not like that. So what is the process that you are going to follow and how you are going to implement that entire software day by day? That is basically agile.
Correct. So what you mean to say, Pranbir, in this 5 to 6 minutes, what you have explained, one, you have explained about with the burger example, the different layers in a software development cycle. I would say एक टेक्नोलॉजी माइंडसेट के लिए एक when a product is being created, उसका एक application layer होता है, उसका database layer होता है, उसका front end होता है, back end होता है. That's what you have told with the burger example, and that somehow explains the word full stack. With this, now we are answering our first question कि एक full stack क्यों चाहिए? क्योंकि at the end of the day, companies को एक ही individual से सारी चीजें अगर मिल रही हैं, so the company's dependency on 3-4 people is now only on one person, which means at the end of the day, higher efficiency. When we are talking about higher efficiency, obviously more profitability for the organization. So exactly. I think that this picture kind of very well defined why full stack is so important today's time, why it is so much in demand, all the more post COVID, because when companies are looking to create applications with fewer people, all the more it is important. And also the left side of this particular figure, you spoke about the various aspects of the DevOps, development tools, front end, and definitely agile. तो एक बात आपने और क्लियर कर दी कि सिर्फ प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज जानना जरूरी नहीं है, प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज के साथ साथ बाकी चीजें भी जानना जरूरी है if somebody wants to consider himself or herself full stack developer.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to the next one. So what is full stack? Pranbir, I think now everybody understands with this two diagrams. I'm sure बहुत clear हो गया है कि full stack developer है क्या. Maybe you can add few points to it.
Okay, so basically, if we look into this definition, it is written that a full stack web developer is a person who can develop both client and server software. So basically, it's basically the definition. Okay, so like we already saw this thing in that burger diagram and in that previous slide. Okay, like how things are working together, how these technologies are working together, and definitely a full stacker is someone who has the knowledge of all these aspects. Okay. So it is written like he should know how to program a browser. Programming browser is like a program in the client side, basically, like he should know how this JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, Vue, React, or this kind of technology works. At the same time, he should know how to program a server. Program a server means basically writing code for the backend. So where the developer need to use different backend language, for example, PHP, ASP, or Python, Java, Node. And in the same time, that developer should know how to program a database. So program a database is like basically maintaining the database, executing SQL queries or different operation in the database. For example, you should have the knowledge of SQLite, MongoDB, so this kind of database. So this is basically the minimum requirement, by the way. Okay, like he should know how to write code in these 3 stages. But other than that, there are lots of other stuff. For example, he should know what is agile. He should know how to do the deployment. So that kind of knowledge is also, I mean, the companies are expecting that also nowadays.
Sure.